I wasn't even supposed to be at that expo. I'd just left a mid-sized IT firm in Tempe, burned out, freelancing, scraping by on short contracts while figuring out my next move. My buddy had an extra badge for the Phoenix Tech Connect Expo. Said I should show up, maybe make some connections. I almost didn't go. But I had nothing better to do, so I walked the floor with stale coffee in hand and low expectations. That's when I saw her, Lana Briggs. She was running a booth for her dad's company, Systex Dynamics, mid-tier security software firm with a decent rep, mostly defense and corporate contracts. Most booths at the expo felt like bad used car lots. Cheap swag, desperate energy. But Lana's setup was clean, quiet, confident. No fake enthusiasm, no robotic pitch. Just her, walking someone through a system demo like she actually gave a damn. I lingered. She noticed. We started talking, first about the product, then everything else. Lana wasn't flashy. She didn't do the whole tech girl boss routine either. Just asked smart questions and listened. Her eyes didn't dart around the room for someone more important. She locked in. Real presence. I hadn't felt that in years. Quick note, before we get too far. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments. Anyway, after about an hour, she invited me to dinner. Said her team was doing a thing at some rooftop bar downtown. I figured, why not? Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into her walking me to my car and texting me when she got home. The next morning, she messaged me before I even had coffee. 2 weeks later, she was flying out to stay with me for a long weekend. A month after that, we were talking every day. Long distance turned into a kind of rhythm. Calls, flights, plans. I was still freelancing, still keeping things flexible. Then came the idea. She floated it soft at first. What if you join the team? Dad's been talking about bringing on someone who actually understands back-end risk structures. She said they needed someone who could see holes before they opened. Someone like me. Her dad, Martin Briggs, seemed okay on the surface. Real stiff, buttoned down, old-school corporate type, but polite, respectful. Called me young man, even though I was 34. I started doing small projects for Systex, quiet consultant work, then some meetings, then a job offer. Salary was lower than what I could pull as a freelancer, but Lana framed it as stability. More time together, less airport food, more real life. I believed her. That was my first mistake, and it sure as hell wasn't the last. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone starts somewhere, right? My first 6 months at Systex were filled with patching out-of-date firewall scripts, cleaning up legacy permissions, and documenting junk nobody wanted to touch. No one said it, but I figured it was a slow trust build. Do the grunt work, show I'm reliable, earn my way up. That's how it works in tech, or so I thought. I submitted proposals, real ones, not fluff, stuff I'd been refining for years. Threat mapping using adaptive triggers, AI-based pattern scrubbing, dormant vulnerabilities they didn't even know existed. I documented everything tight, backed it with numbers. Not a single follow-up. Martin would glance at the reports in meetings, lean back in his chair, and say crap like, "Interesting, let's circle back on that." Then move right along, every time. He never circled back. And I was in those meetings, by the way, sitting at the table. But no one called on me unless it was for an update on some menial ticket backlog. I'd chime in, offer something sharper, get a polite nod, then silence. It always ended the same way. Someone else restating my idea 5 minutes later, getting full credit. At first, I chalked it up to hierarchy. Maybe I needed to play the game longer. But then I started watching how they treated other people who were brought in after me. Old friends of Martin's, cousins, college buddies. They were getting budgets, titles, teams. I was still managing patch logs and ghostwriting memos under someone else's name. At home, things weren't better. Lana said everything was fine, but her tone had changed. Tighter. Like every conversation was a spreadsheet she didn't want to audit. She stopped asking about my day. Stopped waiting up for me when I stayed late. And she was staying late a lot more too. Always with some vague team dinner excuse. I wasn't suspicious, not yet. I just thought she was stressed. But I felt it. The slide. The soft, slow push out. The company didn't want my input. They wanted my silence. And the family, they didn't want a partner. They wanted an employee who said thank you after being ignored. So I stopped waiting to be included. I started working late for real, not for Systex, for me. I'd had this concept bouncing around for years, an adaptive security protocol that adjusted threat response based on live network behavior instead of preset rules. Most systems were reactive. Mine would be predictive. I called it Cinderwall. Started sketching it out at night on my own machine. Clean OS, no traces. I didn't tell Lana. While she scrolled through Slack on the couch, I sat at the dining table, headphones on, building something from scratch, line by line. No oversight, no boardroom approval. It felt good. I registered a small LLC out of state. Just a name, an address, and a placeholder website with zero details. I wasn't stupid. I knew anything I built could be twisted into company property if I wasn't careful. Every night, I watched their internal system rot a little more. I flagged issues, real ones, stuff that could cripple an endpoint if left alone. Never got a response. I tested similar scenarios in my own system, refined solutions, quietly, deliberately. They had no idea. They thought I was just another pawn in the chair, waiting for scraps, smiling, nodding, showing up on time. The hit came the next morning. I logged in at home around 7, coffee in hand, ready to keep my head down and get through another dead-end day. That's when the email popped up in my inbox. Subject line, Q4 performance review, mandatory, boardroom B, 8:30 a.m. The phrasing was off. Performance reviews were always scheduled through HR, and never with that kind of military tone. Still, I grabbed the printouts I'd been keeping, numbers from the breach attempts we stopped, cost-saving calculations, efficiency metrics, real proof, hard data. By 8:25, I was at the door to boardroom B. By 8:26, I knew exactly what this was. Martin sat at the head of the table like he was hosting a funeral. The head of HR, Denise, sat on his right. On his left was some guy in a gray suit I'd never seen. Slicked back hair, stiff posture, the kind of look you only get from being paid hourly to ruin someone's week. Not a single person from my team. I stepped in. Is this really a performance review? Martin didn't answer. He just lifted a paper and started reading like he'd practiced it in the mirror. Due to underperformance, failure to meet departmental expectations, and concerns regarding role alignment, the company has elected to terminate your position effective immediately. I laughed. I actually laughed. You're kidding, right? Underperformance? I closed 3 breach attempts in 4 months. I saved your company over $2.3 million. No one reacted. It was like I wasn't even in the room. He slid an envelope across the table toward me. The way his hand moved, slow, deliberate, it felt like a mafia movie. The lawyer-looking guy kept his eyes on the table, like he'd already moved on to lunch plans. I opened the folder and skimmed the papers. Severance, NDA, exit procedures, all of it pre-filled. I set it down. Hard. Look at the numbers, I said, pulling out the printouts. You want to talk about performance? Here's performance. I held the pages out. No one took them. Martin just said, security will escort you. You have 10 minutes to collect personal items. I could feel heat crawling up my neck. Not panic, rage. Real sharp rage. But I kept my voice steady. This is a setup. At least tell me why. Denise shifted like she wanted to say something, but the lawyer cut in. This meeting is concluded. That was it. The door opened behind me, and the guard stepped in. His name was Corey. I'd trained him during breach simulations last quarter, walked him through console work and basic triage. Now, he wouldn't even make eye contact. We walked to my desk. I grabbed my mug, my phone charger, and the hoodie I kept on my chair. When I tried to badge into the elevator, the reader beeped red. Corey pressed his badge for me, pretending that was normal. I walked to my car feeling hollow, like all the sound had been sucked out of the world. The parking lot felt too bright, too open, like the sun itself was watching me get erased. I sat there a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My breath came in short, clipped bursts. I wanted to punch something. I wanted answers. Instead, I drove. No radio, no calls, no thoughts really, just the road stretching out in front of me, mile after mile of concrete that felt like it was pulling me forward whether I wanted it or not. The numbness held until I pulled into the driveway, until I stepped inside, until I saw what was waiting for me. That's when the real hit landed. The door clicked shut behind me, and the house felt too still. No TV, no music, no movement, just the low hum of the fridge and the smell of burnt toast drifting through the air. Lana stood at the kitchen island, leaning on one elbow with a folder open in front of her. She was dressed like she was heading into a board meeting. Clean blazer, hair pinned back tight, calm, too calm. She lifted her mug, took a slow sip, and didn't even look surprised to see me. She didn't ask why I was home, didn't ask what happened. She already knew. Without a word, she slid a sheet across the counter with the tip of one finger. I picked it up. It wasn't a resume template or a list of recruiters. It was a printout of men's shelters and cheap motels across the city. One was circled in red. Close to the bus stop, my throat went tight. "What is this?" She didn't blink. "Now that you're not with the company," she said, "we're not working anymore either." That was it. No hesitation, no compassion. Just corporate efficiency delivered in a soft, steady voice, like she was ending a subscription service. I stared at her. I waited for something. Regret, emotion, anything. Instead, she closed the folder like the conversation was over before it even started. "You'll land on your feet," she added. "You always said you could handle change." It hit me then, sharp as a blade. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned, deliberate, coordinated. Martin took my job, and she was taking my home. One play after another, all lined up to push me out so cleanly I couldn't even fight back. I didn't ask why she did it. Didn't ask how long she'd been involved. I didn't need to. Everything about her face told me she'd made her choice weeks ago. Maybe months. She stepped aside like she was giving me space. Like she expected me to thank her for the list. I walked past her, straight to the bedroom, grabbed a duffel from the closet and started filling it. Jeans, shirts, toothbrush. Everything felt surreal, like I was packing for a trip I hadn't agreed to take. My hands shook once, just once, before I set my jaw and kept going. She hovered in the doorway, arms crossed. "Let me know when you're done." I didn't answer. I zipped the bag, yanked it off the bed, and brushed past her. She didn't move, didn't follow, didn't care. At the front door, I paused long enough to check myself. Phone, wallet, keys. I didn't take anything she gave me. Not a blanket, not a meal, nothing. I opened the door. She didn't say goodbye. The air outside was hot and dusty. Phoenix heat hitting me straight in the chest as I loaded my bag into the trunk. I got in the car and just sat there for a second, staring at the steering wheel. Everything I'd built with her, every promise she'd made, every late-night conversation, it all snapped clean like a dry twig. I drove north until the houses thinned out and the city noise faded into white sound. Pulled into a run-down motel off the freeway. Flickering sign, peeling paint, lobby that smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. The guy at the front desk didn't even look up as he handed me the key card. The room was small and stale. One bed, one chair, one window with a rattling AC unit. I dropped my duffel on the floor and sat on the edge of the mattress. For a long moment, I just stared at the wall, letting the weight of everything settle. She thought she'd buried me. She thought stripping me of a salary and a roof would leave me crawling. But she didn't know the one thing that mattered most. Cinderwall wasn't theirs. Cinderwall wasn't theirs. The provisional filings were already under my LLC she'd never bothered to ask about. And Systex? Their entire infrastructure was already running on the trial version of my system, the one they'd signed off on without reading the fine print. I stood up from the bed and reached for my laptop. I popped open the laptop and got to work like it was just another project. Wi-Fi was weak, but it didn't matter. Everything I needed was local. My systems, my logs, my tools. I pulled up the admin panel for Cinderwall's trial version. The same back-end Systex had been running for 9 months without a clue they were skating on temporary rights. I clicked into the license tab, scrolled down, and unchecked one box. Auto-renew. Off. I could picture it. Their dashboard still green, reports still running. Everything seeming fine while the core began quietly degrading under their feet. Then I scheduled the email. Formal tone, legal language, subject line, license suspended, breach of faith, clause invoked. I wrote it like a compliance officer would. Cold, precise. I cited clause 12, subparagraph 3, a line buried deep in the fine print they never read, hidden between harmless-sounding update terms and data usage agreements. It gave me full termination rights, no notice required in the event of unethical conduct. They signed it without blinking. I set the system to begin degrading over the next 2 days. Then, I shut the laptop and waited. First night, nothing. Second morning, I saw the first ping. An error report from their firewall node in Chicago. Minor timeout. Easy to miss. I smiled. By noon, traffic from 2 East Coast clients started flagging false positives. Phantom threats that weren't threats at all. Just packet misreads from a broken decision tree. Internal tools were scrambling to compensate, redirecting traffic through backup channels that didn't exist yet. That evening, my phone lit up. Unknown number, then another, then Martin. I let them ring. Next came Lana. She left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Another call, then 10 more. By midweek, I had 78 missed calls, 36 voicemails. My inbox was full of calendar invites from people I didn't even know, requesting urgent meeting, potential breach concern, need clarification on back-end license. All of them ignored. Consultants were probably tearing their hair out by then. Their in-house team was never trained to handle what was happening. They didn't understand the architecture. It wasn't theirs to begin with. I built it modular, smart, reactive, but I also built it to obey me first. Always. When the license flipped, Cinderwall didn't crash. It shifted. Subtle instability, delayed handshakes, slow authentications, phantom errors that looked like human mistakes, things that wouldn't raise alarms, just whispers. Meanwhile, I sat in that motel room with the door locked and the blinds drawn, drinking cheap gas station coffee and watching their entire infrastructure unwind like a pulled thread. And the clause they ignored gave me total kill rights. I didn't even need a reason. They'd already handed me one when they blindsided me in that boardroom and showed me the door. I opened the laptop again, watched the error logs roll in from 5 different cities. West Coast now. Systems failing to authenticate, backups failing to trigger, client portals stuck in infinite redirects. Not a full shutdown, just controlled decay. Enough to make every IT team panic. And every second it broke down, their dependency on my work became clearer. They'd built everything on top of a foundation they never understood, and now that foundation was shifting right out from under them. The same week their system started coughing up blood, I took 3 meetings in 2 days. Word had leaked. Not the whole story, but enough to make people curious. Something was wrong at Systex, and companies in the space started sniffing around, trying to find out who built the architecture that was now coming apart. Some already knew. One CTO from a mid-sized cybersecurity firm out of Denver emailed me direct. Heard you built something they couldn't fix. You free this week? I didn't even wait. Took the next flight up. We met in a quiet glass-walled conference room. He had a dry erase board full of incomplete code logic behind him. Halfway through my breakdown of Cinderwall's response engine, he leaned back and smiled. You looking for a job or a sale? Neither, I said. I'm looking for the right offer. 2 more meetings came after that. One was stiff, too corporate. The other felt right. Small but scaling fast. West Coast company building a real team. Not legacy junk patched together with duct tape and buzzwords. They actually listened. I signed within a week, Director of Threat Response. Better title, way better money, and for the first time in years, real respect. That same day I filed new paperwork for my LLC. Shifted Cinderwall from trialware to a legit product line. Updated the IP protections, locked down the license models, registered trademarks. No more stealth mode. I found a cheap sublet in Midtown. Nothing flashy, just clean space with fast internet and thick walls. I brought in an assistant I'd worked with years ago who'd been laid off after a merger. Then hired a junior dev, fresh out of school, hungry as hell, sharp enough to keep up. We ran lean. No suits, no middle layers, just code, testing, revisions, repeat. And every single day, I watched Systex spiral. They tried to recover, hired outside firms, rebuilt frameworks, but nothing worked. Because they didn't own the brain. They just had the shell. And when the updates stopped syncing, the whole thing staggered like a drunk trying to walk a straight line. Then came the message. Martin. He emailed me directly. Simple subject line. Let's talk. I almost deleted it without reading, but I opened it. 1 line. Name your price. No apology, no ownership. Just a rich man reaching into his pocket like that would fix what he broke. I didn't reply. I didn't even think about it. Deleted it, emptied the trash, and blocked the address. A month later, two federal clients cut ties with Systex after repeated back-end irregularities. That's what the press called it. Their stock tanked 15% in 1 week. Investors pulled out. Forums lit up. Internal memos leaked. One of their clients reported a week-long blackout in authentication protocols that forced them to go manual for 3 days. Martin stepped down quietly. "Health reasons," the headline said. Sure. Meanwhile, we were gaining traction. I demoed Cinderwall's full version to a private security contractor, and they asked for pilot access before the call even ended. That deal alone covered our burn for 6 months. Every win tasted sharper knowing where I'd started. I walked into that sublet office each morning, passed by the metal mailbox with my LLC name printed clean across it, and remembered what it felt like to be told I wasn't valuable, to be erased, buried. Now they were the ones scrambling to patch holes they didn't understand. 6 weeks later, she showed up. I was stepping out for a coffee run, mid-morning, blue sky overhead, traffic rolling by like nothing mattered, and there she was, Lana, leaning against a parking meter in front of my building like this was just another Tuesday, hair done, light makeup, casual but curated, like she wanted to look low-key without looking like she tried. She held a brown paper bag in one hand. The logo caught my eye, Frankie's BBQ, my favorite. Hadn't eaten there since before she kicked me out. "Thought you might be hungry," she said, holding it up like some peace offering. I didn't take it, didn't say a word, just kept walking until I was standing 3 feet from her, hands in my jacket pockets, waiting to hear whatever speech she practiced in the car. She smiled like we were still friends. "You look good." I gave her nothing. She shifted. "I've been thinking a lot about how things went down. I made a mistake. Maybe we both did." There it was, that soft pivot. That maybe we both did. Like this had been some shared misunderstanding instead of a setup I walked straight into. I didn't respond. I let her fill the silence. "I thought I was doing what made sense at the time," she said. "Dad, it got complicated, but I didn't think it would blow up like that." I raised an eyebrow. Still said nothing. She blinked fast, like she expected me to bail her out. "Anyway, things changed. People change. I just thought maybe we could talk, start over even." I finally spoke, calm, clear. "You didn't break my heart," I said. "You broke my name." She froze. I kept going. "I put years into building something that mattered. I trusted you with it, and you let them rip it out from under me." Her voice dropped. "I didn't rip anything. You watched it happen," I cut in. "And when it was done, you handed me a list of shelters. So, no, we're not starting over." She swallowed hard. The smile dropped. "You look different," she said. But this time, it wasn't a compliment. I nodded. "Yeah, I rebuilt without you." That landed. She flinched like I'd slapped her. The silence got thick. People walked past us on the sidewalk, none of them knowing what was happening right there in the open. She held out the bag again. "You don't have to eat it. Just thought I'd try." I didn't take it. "We're done here." She stood there a second longer, like she still had hope. But when I didn't move, didn't soften, she finally stepped back. "Good luck," she muttered. I watched her walk away, shoulders tense, head down. Whether she was angry or embarrassed, I didn't care. Probably both. I turned, walked back inside, rode the elevator to my floor, and sat at my desk. The bag of food never made it past the door. That night, I opened the admin panel on my LLC's website. Up until then, the About section had been blank. Just a placeholder, a bit of anonymity just in case. But I wasn't hiding anymore. I typed in my full name, added my bio, uploaded a photo, then I hit publish. Let the world know exactly who built the thing they tried to steal. After I hit publish, everything shifted. People started reaching out, slow at first. A LinkedIn message here, a cold email there. Then one of the clients I demoed for sent over a signed deal before lunch. They didn't want just Cinderwall. They wanted full integration, support, updates, the suite, so I built it. Cinderwall went from a skeleton protocol to a full service line, core defense engine, threat mapping module, real-time anomaly tracking. I wrote every update myself, line by line, until I couldn't see straight. Brought in 2 more clients by spring, then a third out of Dallas that said they'd been watching quietly since the Systex collapse. That made 4, enough to cover salaries, enough to scale. The office doubled. We moved out of the sublet and into a full-floor loft on Madison. exposed brick, beat up hardwood floors, and windows that actually opened. Still modest, but it felt real, something permanent. I didn't just hire people, I chose them. 6 new devs joined us. All of them had been boxed out somewhere else. Let go, passed over, burned out, or bought out. I didn't care about resumes. I cared about scars. You could always tell who'd been underestimated. They carried it in their posture, in how they talked about their last job. I brought them in, gave them ownership, equity from day one. No layers, no BS titles, just work, pay, and a clean split of the upside. I didn't need hierarchy. I needed people who knew how to fight back and still show up the next day. And they did. We kept it tight. 4 stand-ups a week. Open pull requests. Every decision went through review, no ego. If your code worked, it stayed. If it broke, you fixed it. That was the deal. They respected that because they'd all come from places that pretended to care and never did. I started a mentorship program too, quietly. Just 1 hour a week, no press, no big social post. I picked guys who had just been laid off or pushed out in dirty ways like I had, walked them through contracts, helped them set up LLCs, taught them what to watch for in the fine print, no fee, no catch. You want to break the cycle? You teach people how to build alone. One Thursday afternoon, my mom came by. First time she'd visited since the motel days. She walked through the space slowly, hands in her coat pockets, just taking it all in. The desks, the whiteboards, the team laughing around an open sprint review. She didn't say much until we got to my office. She looked around at the walls, the logo on the glass door, the framed LLC paperwork behind my desk, then looked at me. You finally built something no one can take from you. I just nodded. There was nothing else to say. Later that night, after the team left, I stayed behind, ordered takeout, kicked my feet up on the desk. Lights flicked off floor by floor across the building. My screen glowed in the dark like a lighthouse. This space? My name was on the lease. The systems? My code ran every damn one. The company? I didn't work there. I was it. And if anyone wanted to take it, they'd have to come through me this time. Fully awake, fully armed, and already 10 moves ahead. A month after we landed our 5th client, a tech journal ran a story on Cinderwall. Title: The architect who walked away and took the infrastructure with him. They sent a photographer out. Said they wanted something authentic. The photo they used wasn't staged. I was in the kitchen, pouring coffee in a faded hoodie, mid-conversation with one of my devs. Looked more like a guy trying to stay awake than a founder. But that was the truth of it. The piece made rounds. LinkedIn, Reddit, even a few Discords I hadn't touched in years. Nothing viral, just steady. The kind of thing that sticks with the people it's meant for. 2 days later, I got a message from a guy in Tulsa. Got canned for pushing back on bad code. Thanks for proving we're not crazy. That one hit different. Because I remembered that feeling, thinking maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was too difficult, too blunt, too intense about doing the job right. That's why I kept telling the story, not for revenge, for proof. So people like him knew they weren't alone, knew you can walk away, rebuild from nothing, and come out stronger. You just have to stop trying to win their game and build your own. Every now and then, someone sends an update. Martin's still around. Consulting, last I heard. Probably billing 6 figures to do nothing but tell boardrooms how not to crash the next time. Same script, new clients. Lana moved back to Arizona. Quiet. No new job posts. Nothing in the trades. Someone said she's working internal strategy for a regional bank. Fitting and Systex? Still limping. Last I checked, they had 1 federal contract left. Just enough to say they exist. I don't gloat. I don't celebrate their fall. I just build. So if you're reading this, if you've been tossed aside, laughed at, lied to, or stripped of your work, listen to me. Keep everything. Track everything. Build quietly, then walk. Don't explain. Don't beg. And when they come calling, don't pick up. Just pour your coffee, check your logs, and get back to work.